We're getting an inside look at a bold plan to dismantle death row at one of the nation's most notorious prisons. With executions now halted at San Quentin in California, those on death row are now being transferred to other prisons across the state. So this is all part of a larger effort in California to reshape the prison system. Contributor Gianna Taboni got to see the changes firsthand and joins us now with the latest. Gianna, good morning. Good to see you.
Good morning, Gayle. At a recent family event, I introduced myself to Governor Newsom. We have a family connection. I requested an interview for my forthcoming book on the death penalty in America. He agreed. In April, we visited San Quentin State Prison and California's death row. This is California's San Quentin State Prison. And beyond these iron doors is the largest death row in the Western Hemisphere.
Hello, how you doing? Good morning. Good morning.
It's where we met Governor Gavin Newsom. He put a stop to executions here 5 years ago, and now is in the process of dismantling death row altogether.
I don't think this makes anyone particularly proud. The vast majority of the world has moved in a completely different direction.
The reform stems in part from a ballot measure passed by voters requiring condemned prisoners to work and pay restitution to their victims' families. That means inmates like Albert Jones have been transferred from death row to maximum security state prisons, where they will get a cellmate and privileges.
It's going to be good for a lot of us, but the main thing is I'm going to be around people where I ain't got to be handcuffed all the time.
So you're clearing death row. More than 600 death row inmates, right, are being transferred to other state prisons.
Yep.
There are victims' families who aren't thrilled about this because with restitution comes privileges. These guys will get opportunities that they wouldn't have in here. And some people think they shouldn't have that. They should exist in a punitive environment. And what do you say to them?
Well, I mean, the idea that the voters advance is not a bad idea, that there should be victim restitution. There should be some remuneration. We're not letting people out. They're still condemned for life.
But Newsom is going beyond death row and is rolling out broader reforms statewide. It's called the California model, and it's designed to rehabilitate general population prisoners for life after incarceration.
I'm walking through the San Quentin prison yard right here. Majority of these guys have life sentences. Many of them have killed people, and yet they're uncuffed. They're not behind cell doors. And that's part of the rehabilitative culture that is very intentional here and that California is trying to replicate in facilities across the state.
My name is Lily. He said, Viper said, nice to meet you.
Inmates who demonstrate good behavior can sign up for classes from sign language to therapy to even coding. The state's data shows these kinds of programs help keep those once incarcerated from coming back into the system.
It's about addressing the reality that 95% of prisoners in the California system are going to be released back into the community. Are they going to be released healthier than they came in or more broken? We're as dumb as we want to be. You reincarcerate them, the costs associated with that. When you had that time in prison where we actually could have been fundamentally addressing the issue of trauma and ultimately addressing the issue of public safety.
So you've started to roll out these programs at 8 incarceration facilities across the state. What have you learned so far?
They work.
How do you measure success?
Well, I measure success by reducing recidivism.
Recidivism is when a person reoffends after leaving prison. California's recidivism rate is just below the national average at 42%. Newsom wants that number even lower, spending nearly $240 million taxpayer dollars to remake San Quentin alone. That's less money than he intended to spend after his own advisory committee pushed back on the cost.
You know, some folks may wonder, why not double down on, say, early childhood education to keep people out of the system instead of investing in this?
Well, we want to begin at the beginning. That's prenatal care. All of that, and we have to deal with the lived realities of people that do commit heinous crimes, people that do belong behind bars.
Investing hundreds of millions now, Newsom says, will save the state in the long run by keeping people out of prison. He's basing California's model off of one that's worked for decades in Norway, a country whose recidivism rate went from 70% to 20%.
In the 1990s, they were operating similar to how the American system was working. They're now an international model in terms of public safety. We want to bring an innovative mindset to criminal justice reform. The overwhelming majority of people that are incarcerated end back in your neighborhoods.
Oh, wow. Okay, so what's this?
Yeah, so these are all formerly incarcerated people. As you see, it's a 0 recidivism rate. No one on this wall has come back to prison.
No one who's gone through this program has committed a crime afterward.
No.
Greg Eskridge is an inmate who hosts a radio program at San Quentin.
What do you hope to get out of this story? What is it that you're trying to say?
My older brother is 10 years older than me. Okay. And so with my dad not being around, that was my father figure.
Eskridge killed a young man when he was 20 years old and was sentenced to 58 years to life.
Do you think about your victim?
All the time. All the time. Over the last 30 years of my incarceration, I've had nothing but time to think. He had a mother, he had a family, and I took all of that away from him.
What is it about these programs that changes a person from being someone who is likely to commit a crime to someone who is fully rehabilitated and will not commit a crime in their future?
Many people come from disenfranchised backgrounds, they come from poverty, and people aren't seen. People are thrown away by their communities, right? So to come inside of this place and to see people investing their time and their money and their resources, and it just gives a person a new way of thinking. And once people begin to retrain their thinking, then they become successful. Today I'm saying to myself that I will never cause harm again.
Greg Eskridge appeared before the parole board a few months back, and the board recommended his release. He says he's prepared to live a crime-free life. Now, Greg, to date, is a success story, but it's important to note that not everybody is in his position. Not everybody has done these programs. And victims' families, who are still mourning their loved ones, not all of them are on board. And we will be talking to them in our story tomorrow.
Yeah, that's what I keep thinking about. I'm glad you're doing the second part, because I do think about the victims' families in times like these. But clearly, those programs are working. But Gianna, I have a question for you. For most people, we hear about San Quentin in the news or we see it in a movie. So to see it, to be there up close and personal, what was that like for you to be inside?
Good question.
Well, Gayle, I grew up, knowing San Quentin as one of the most notorious prisons, not only in California, but in the country. And then walking through there, it's different than other prisons I've visited, both in the U.S. and overseas. It's, a lot more relaxed, frankly. People, as you saw, are not wearing handcuffs. They're not behind bars. And there's this sort of baseline level of trust, it seems, between the incarcerated folks and the correctional officers. And as you know, that's very intentional there.
All right, Gianna.
Report.
Look forward
to part two.
to tomorrow.
Yeah. Gianna, thank you very much. Appreciate it.